Hi, Kirstie here from Starfish. If you're watching this video, it's probably because you're really wanting to know what the missing piece in the teaching children to read puzzle is. I'm just filming this as pretty laid back, just in my home. It won't be a long video, and it's based on both research and many years of experience teaching children at the pointy end of the stick, shall we say, with significant reading difficulties. Okay, starting point. There's loads of evidence to show that children need to know phonics, and that the optimal, based on current research, the optimal way to teach children to read is systematic instruction of synthetic phonics. What does that mean? Basically means an organised approach to teaching phonics that also shows children how to join sounds together. Unfortunately, what I have found, if children come to our tutoring centre, most of the time there's gaps in their phonics knowledge. In almost every single time there is also a gap in this missing piece of the puzzle. So hang in there and I'll tell you all about it. Basically, we're finding that children have difficulty with the whole, if you like, sounding out approach. That's how I was taught to read. I was expected to know the sounds of the alphabet and say the word was, clip. I would have to go k, l, I, p. And as a 5 or a 6-year-old, I was expected somehow to join all those sounds together. Say the word was blunt. I would have to go b, l, a, n, t, and then miraculously join them together. The problem with that is that we know that many people, let alone children, can only hold 3 or 4 items in their working memory. So if we were trying to sound out and then join all those sounds together in one go, we would have to hold 5 separate chunks in our working memory. No wonder kids go lub, bun, but. They drop letters out or sounds out of the word, they muddle them up because they can't hold and manipulate all of those sounds, those 5 sounds in their working memory. Makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, so this is what we do. This is what we teach children. Some children pick it up really quickly and some take a couple of weeks, but we absolutely persist because we know it works. Of course, we teach phonics. But you don't have to wait till children know all of the sounds of the alphabet before you can actually start doing this. These are what I use. You can use magnetic letters. You can use little laminated letter cards and have them out on a table. I find those, like, frankly, slippery little suckers, and they take a long time to get organised. Magnetic letters, I find they are good and they do work, but I prefer these ones because they show children, once they get up to this level, that sometimes letters combine to make one sound, and that one sound is on the brick. So that one obviously says ch. This one here says or. Anyway, enough of that. We can talk about digraphs and trigraphs another time. But let me give you an example of how we teach children to join sounds together so that they're not having or not expected to hold too many items in their working memory at any one time. I'll bring it a little bit closer to you, and let's start out with a consonant vowel consonant word, shall we? I prefer to use words that are not in kids' sight words so that I know that they're using phonics and this strategy rather than relying on their visual memory. So let's go for this one. Children would have to say, I'd say, what sound is it? And they'd have to say g. Then I'd put the next one out. They'd say, I'd keep reminding them, keep prompting, g, a. Then they would have to join that together. And yes, some children take a little bit of help, a little bit of time, a little bit of help to get to this point where they can actually go g, a, ga. So there's lots of prompting. Some kids pick it up really quickly. But we need that. So that was one chunk. This was the second chunk. But then it becomes one chunk again. So instead of g, a, and two separate chunks in working memory, it becomes one chunk, ga. So then I say, wait to see what I put out, because they don't know what sound I'm going to put out yet. We've got ga, 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 So they're joining this chunk to that chunk. So there's only ever two things in their working memory, or two items in the working memory. Gum. Children will get better and better at doing that joining, but they need lots of practice. So let me do another one. Let's go for another one that wouldn't be in their working memory. Let's go, they'd have to say I. Join it for me. Si. Si. Wait to see what I put out. Si. Si. Oh. Si. Oh. Sil. So that becomes one chunk. Sil. Wait to see what I put out. Silk. 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 Very clever. You can see that this is a consonant vowel, and then that's a double consonant blend, which is different to blending. But anyway, it's sometimes confusing, the terminology. Silk. Let's do one with a double consonant at the start of the word. Let's go for, I need one that's not in their sight words vocabulary. So let's go for, let's do, they'd have to say t, 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 trr, 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 I. Join it for me. Tree, tree. So that becomes one chunk. Tree, 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 trim, trim. Some kids mightn't even know what that meant, so I might explain that means it's another word for cutting, to trim something. Okay, you can see the double consonant at the start. Trr, trr, tree, tree, trim. So you can see we're chunking sounds. We're gradually adding one sound onto the chunk at a time. All of a sudden, words become decodable, or they can figure them out because now they've got a strategy. That's assuming that they know all of those sounds. We now need to help them learn how do you join them. And this is the missing piece in the puzzle. I know it seems easy, and it is. It's not rocket science, but kids do need to be taught this strategy. Let's do a harder word. Let's do one once again that's not in this, wouldn't be in their sight words vocabulary. Let's go. They'd have to go b. Then they'd have to go b. Bl. I would often remind them. Join it for me. Bl. Bl. Ah. Blah. 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 Hold on to it. Blah. So I might repeat it a few times to give them some support. Blah. Blah, 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 blun, blun, wait to see, blunt, blunt, like your pencil might be blunt. So we've got a double consonant, a vowel, and a double consonant at the end. But you can see we were just only ever joining one chunk on at a time. So that becomes a new chunk. That then becomes a chunk plus that one, and then that becomes the chunk. Blah. So we're adding one sound on at a time. Blunt. Let's do one with a digraph in it, shall we? Let's do, actually this one, we can go to the start of that. Let's go b, b, l. Kids actually do get faster and faster at this, and I find sometimes, as I said, straight away. Well, when I say straight away, within a few sessions. Sometimes it takes a few weeks, but eventually kids get, if with lots and lots of practice and reinforcement, they'll end up going bl. They won't have to keep joining it on. Bl, bl, ah, blah, blah. And here is a digraph where SH combines to make one sound. Sh, blah, sh, blush. Like if you get embarrassed, you might blush, or sometimes you might use blush for makeup. Anyway, blah, blah, sh. And honestly, it's that easy. and this is one of the missing pieces. So go for it. If you're curious about what I'm using here, these are our educational bricks. They are available in store and online. I have them, although I've messed it up a little bit now, normally when I'm working during tutoring, I have them in quite a set order, because when my boys were little, I had these bricks, so they've been around a long time, but I didn't use them because I had them in a big tub, and I just found they were quite time consuming to find the right ones. They'd be upside down, and the boys would then get bored or distracted, and I'd find it hard to get them back on task. When you're doing this should honestly only take a few minutes in a session. So I needed quick. And once I realised that if I used a big base plate, this is actually, this is the large base plate, but they're interchangeable with Duplo. So if you do have a Duplo base plate, that's just as good. In fact, the Duplo ones are bigger. They're just thinner. Anyway, so I have my letters in alphabetical order, and I put them back every single time that I use them, and I put them back in the same spot so I know where they are. So you can see I've got them in alphabetical order. The other thing that I do, I put the vowels down the bottom, and then I try to group our digraphs or even our rhyme in like sounds, because that's when we're actually teaching children these. We teach them in their groups of sounds. So that's how I have mine set up. I'll just pop it quickly back for you so you can see. We do have a post on our website that shows how we set them up, so if you want a closer look. And I would recommend, if you wanted to use these bricks, and I definitely recommend them, that's for sure. I prefer them to the magnetic letters. That said, once children get up to more complex, say, multisyllabic words, I then find that these take too long, and I move to the magnetic letters and a magnetic board for tutoring. So there you have it. This is what I use to teach that missing piece in the puzzle, the joining on of sounds one at a time, to help. It particularly helps children with difficulty with working memory. And I use the base plate for the individual words. I also have lots of resources so that I've got lots, because as I said, children need lots of practice. And I have a little book that I use. I call it my cheat book. I made it I looked at all of my teaching resources, because children need lots and lots of practice. So I need lots and lots of words that I can quickly refer to, because when you're on the spot, you often can't think of enough examples. So say, for instance, I was doing the AR letter pattern that makes the sound R most of the time. So in words shark and sharp and market, etc., I'd need lots and lots of words with that sound in it, because I can't think of many. And I need at least 10 per session of examples. So I have a little cheat book, that's what I call it. But you can Google word lists off the internet. I'll put the link for where we recommend people get word lists. And it's free. It's hard to believe, but it is actually free. It's called Worksheet Genius, and I'll put the link for you on this web post. Alrighty, hope you've got something out of it, and good luck with the missing piece in the puzzle. Alright.